to our top story now. It's the final day of the second South Africa Investment Summit. We speak to Phumzile Langeni, who is a presidential investment emissary, to reflect on the conference and find out what investors really want or are asking about South Africa. Ms. Langeni, thank you very much for making the time to speak to us. So 363,000 billion rand committed in this second round of the conference. Do you consider it a success?
I consider it a success of great magnitude. It's a great win. I must say it has certainly surpassed my expectation and certainly is a big step up from what we managed to garner up last year. So certainly the South African train is moving in the right direction.
Halfway towards the $100 billion or 1.2 trillion that the president was aiming for over the next 5 years. I'd like to know how much of this 363 has come from local investors, and why have they been sitting on their money in the first place?
Well, I would say a big slug of that has come from the local investment community. I don't have the exact number for you, but certainly if one just reflects on the institutions that stood up yesterday and made the commitment, a significant portion of those were actually South African. And I suppose a lot has been said about South African business sitting on cash and sitting on their rands. But I must say, over the last 2 years, we have seen quite a substantial amount of money from the South African investment community coming back into South Africa and fielding and funding the investments that we're seeing.
Again, I ask, reasons for local investors, local business, big business, why they took so long. What is it about the reluctance? What exactly was not satisfactory to them about the environment in our country?
It's been a very tough environment, especially from a policy perspective. I think one of the themes that investors have surfaced, which I can identify with as a person in business, has been the issue of policy certainty, consistency, but I also think just the backdrop in South Africa has not been too friendly towards business. Now, I think sometimes there's very little appreciation that when business makes decisions, those decisions, be they capital in nature or whatever forms of decisions, are done within the backdrop of long-term planning. And for that to be done, everyone has got to have some element of comfort and some visibility for a reasonable horizon, which usually would be 3 to 5 years, to then say, if we make these decisions, if we make these investments, this is what we're expecting, and this is where we see that investment destination going and how we expect our investment to perform.
Contrast that behavior then of local business versus foreign investors who've pledged yet more billions to this country. What is it that they like, or what is it that moves them about our country that makes them want to invest here? And also importantly, what do they think they can get out of it?
Well, so for your international investors, it's also a case of diversification from a geography perspective. I think everyone knows that out of the frontiers in the world, our continent of Africa has been touted as a growth frontier. So you will be seeing a lot more foreign investment coming into the rest of the continent, and in South Africa in particular. And I think, in all fairness, if we consider the figures that have been bandied about, foreign direct investment into South Africa in particular has also slowed down rapidly, or rather significantly, over the recent past. So what you are seeing are foreign investors responding very positively to the President's message, to the narrative that is being bandied out there, and also, I would say, to honest engagement. So on our visits and our trips, we speak about the issues that we've been faced with as a country over the last few years. We're also speaking about the progress that we're making, the interventions, which I think people don't always see, which have been very positive, which we believe will bear the fruits, which I think we will all benefit from within the next 12 to 18 months.
On the back of this investment conference that's taking place, Ms. Langeni, there's a story on the front page of the Daily Dispatch, and it's quite a very negative one on the back of what has been a very positive conference, it would seem. And it's about this factory. It's called the Yegani factory that is essentially shutting down. It's a R1 billion investment that was made last year. It's shutting down. And I just want to read what the CEO there is saying. This is Mr. Dr. Spiwe Cele, who says, "It is high time our government and politicians alike started walking the talk. Populist political sound bites are not going to combat the twin scourge of unemployment and poverty. The support of local businesses which create jobs, which in turn leads to people being self-sustaining, is what is required." He is very angry, and he's saying that all these investment conferences, they amount to nothing if you do not invest properly in local businesses.
It is a very unfortunate turn of events. I can understand Dr. Cele's disappointment with how things have played out, but I also believe that, well, there are many reasons as to why enterprises don't work, and it would be very difficult to comment on this particular case. I haven't seen the business plan. I do not know the factors that have contributed to the closure of this business, but certainly I can say there is a significant movement within South Africa to support local. Government has pledged significant sums of monies. The IDC just yesterday made a pledge of 18 billion rand of investments to support local businesses. So unfortunately, the way business goes is some will do well, they will prosper. These will be institutions that we'll talk about way beyond our lifetime. But unfortunately, in some instances, depending on the robustness of the business case, depending on the environment itself, some businesses, unfortunately, don't make it. So this is one of those unfortunate ones, but I don't think it should detract or distract us from garnering the support, encouraging investors, because as much as there is a failure that you have just referred to, there are many other successes that we can also point to.
Phumzile Langeni, we thank you very much for making the time
to
come and speak to us here on The First Take. She is